right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. I'm Rich Walsh. I'll be joined by Andrew Fillipponi in a matter of moments at the 93.7, the fan cam. I can tell you I'm not excited about this weather, especially in the next couple of days, but what I am excited about is the final, the championship between the United States and Canada on Thursday night. I loved watching it the other night. I think it's going to be excellent. And, you know, that is our poll question here tonight, our live poll question. Would you pay over $1,000 to see USA and Canada in the Four Nations face-off? You can scan the QR code. I think the lowest ticket right now that we saw is over $1,200, close to $1,300. I wouldn't pay that. I don't know about you, Pony.
I would not. It was one of the great hockey games I've seen, the one Saturday night between the two teams. And I don't know how they recapture the intensity of having those 3 fights in 9 seconds. JT Miller, who we count as a Pittsburgh guy, of course, right there, smack dab in the middle of it. And Sidney Crosby, of all people, with a very costly turnover that led to the United States goal that ended up being the difference maker in the game. But, yeah, I'll watch. I will be into it. I will be rooting for the United States, but I also root for Sid. And that's a very strange dynamic about these games, Richie, is that I want the United States to win, but at the same time, I want to see Sidney Crosby do well in these games. Like, I was very sad that he ended up having a big mishap in that first game, and I hope that the United States wins, but Sid looks like the best player on the ice.
You know, Pony, I feel the exact same way. It's odd. You know, I'm sitting there rooting for Sid, and there's part of me wants Canada to win because of him, but then obviously I want the United States to win. So I'm sitting, we're all watching it up in the sports office, and I'm like, you know, you obviously was a great way to start the game. I mean, obviously the United States was on a mission when 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. But, I mean, yeah, it's a weird dynamic. I would imagine a lot of Penguins fans feel the same way.
They should. Sidney Crosby, after Mario Lemieux, is the greatest player in team history. What he's done for the organization, what he means to the team, still being able to play at such a high level at 37. He made the play in the game against Finland this afternoon that wrapped the game up for them. Canada almost blew that game against Finland. They were up 4-0. It became a 4-3 game. And he had the game winner to make sure that that game was put away and put Canada into this championship rematch Thursday night for Four Nations. So, absolutely. I mean, he's been such a great ambassador, diplomat for Pittsburgh, face of the organization and face of the city that, yes, when I saw Charlie McAvoy, who, by the way, is Mike Sullivan's son-in-law, blow up Sidney Crosby in the first game, I was like, yikes. The last thing I want is for him to get injured playing internationally, although Sid wouldn't want it any other way. He doesn't want a soft finesse game. He wants it to be the high-level game that it was when these two teams played on Saturday.
You know, when you look at those rosters up and down, I mean, I think Canada would be the favorite, right?
More top-end players, and they're going to get Cale Makar back. And so anybody who follows the NHL and knows hockey is aware what a difference he's going to make for the Canadian team. He's going to play half the game. He's going to play over 25 minutes. He's going to quarterback their power play. He's going to possess the puck and get it up from down one end to the other. And he is basically Erik Karlsson before Erik Karlsson basically aged out here in Pittsburgh. And he's a much better defensive player than Karlsson, too. He's magnificent. And so to get that guy back is going to be a huge, huge bump for the Canadian team. The Canadian team does not have the kind of bottom 6 talent that the United States team has. Also, goaltending is a big advantage for the United States with Connor Hellebuck in goal as opposed to Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, a lot of former Penguins showing up in the Four Nations face-off. We saw Michael Granlund today, Marcus Granlund today, and or Michael Granlund, excuse me. I totally forget his name because he was so horrible here in, for the Penguins. And then Jake Gensel the other night, Sidney Crosby, obviously, so Mike Sullivan. A lot of things to pay attention to. So make sure you scan that code. Would you pay over $1,000 to see U.S. and Canada in the Four Nations face-off? I wouldn't. I think the lowest ticket's around $1,300. So, all right, Pony, let's switch gears a little bit. It's the one time to be optimistic for the Pirates. You know, only a handful of times were you optimistic during the season over the last 30-some years. But, you know, it's the one day to be optimistic down in Bradenton, the first full squad workout.
Now, he's going to be out until probably mid-April, possibly longer than that with this wrist injury. So better than, I think, I would say better than the Cardinals, who basically made no moves and have admitted that it's a rebuilding season for them. I think also probably better than the Brewers, and that's going to shock people because they won 93 games last year, but they took a ton of players off their team, including Devin Williams, who went to the Yankees. Corbin Burns has been gone for 2 years now. And also Willie Adames, their shortstop, is gone. So I think they'll be better than both of those teams. I do not think they'll be better than the Cubs. I don't think they'll be better than the Reds. So I've got them in third place in the division, Richie.
All right, interesting. We got to take a break. We're taking your phone calls coming up next. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back in a couple minutes. This is our GMC tweet of the night from the Pittsburgh Penguins, captain versus coach. It all comes down to Thursday night, Canada versus U.S., 8 o'clock. It should be interesting, and it should be a fun one to watch. And if it's anything like it was the other night, it should be a great game. All right, we'll switch gears a little bit here. I know you're super excited about the game that's coming up tomorrow, potentially, Pitt and Syracuse. I don't think either team has a chance to get into the NCAA tournament unless they win the ACC tournament. But Pitt, 15 wins right now, 6 games. That would get them to 21. If you could win 2 games in the ACC tournament, do you think they get in?
Well, I'll just be completely honest with you. I was more excited going to the Whippeal 2A basketball playoff game that I went to tonight, Richie. I watched Chartiers Houston beat Shenango, Chuck Tanner's alma mater. That is my hometown team now where I live, and I want to give a shout-out to Rich Tranquil and the boys there who won that game by 20 and now have a date with Sewickley Academy on Thursday. So
all right, nice.
Props to them. I don't know about how your alma mater did. I did not get a score check on that. Maybe your friends can pass that along.
I'll have to look that up. Penn Hills. Yeah.
Penn Hills, exactly. Anyways, yes, this game is really for Pitt a must-win. They can't afford another loss. I think they need to go into the ACC tournament on a winning streak that allows for them to not have another stub-your-toe type loss, and then that would also mean a good road win against Louisville, who's a top 25 team right now. And I think at that point, I think they probably still have to win at least a game in the ACC tournament, maybe even 2, because the conference gets no respect. The conference had another lousy November and December when they played non-ACC teams, non-conference games. And so even teams like Wake Forest, who have a ton of ACC wins, are still looked at as a bubble team. Now, Pitt has the road win against Ohio State. They also have the blowout home win against West Virginia in the backyard brawl, which are nice wins. But they don't have a signature ACC win yet, and that's why that game against Louisville is so important. But in the meantime, you've got to beat these cupcake teams that are ahead of you, and Syracuse is absolutely one of those teams with a losing overall record this year.
Yeah, they could have won North Carolina. They should have won Clemson. It was a disastrous loss to Virginia, and then another tough loss. So, yeah, I don't know. And even if they do make it in, I don't think they can go far. The loss of Dunn was huge, and I just don't think they have the team that can make a run in the tournament. Let's go out to JB out in Shadyside. How you doing, JB?
Oh.
Yeah, you there?
Hey, so this is kind of an unpopular take, but I would like to trade Skeens to Baltimore for. Now, as part of the deal, they have to take Hayes off my books. Give me a third baseman, corner outfielder, maybe like 3 pitchers, your top shortstop prospect.
I mean, that is definitely unpopular. You can't trade Skeens right now. You don't know what you're getting. If you're trading, you're still in this same cyclical thing where you're going to trade your best player for prospects, and we're just going to keep waiting 5 years, kick that can down 5 years down the road. I don't want to see that anymore. I want them to win now. That's why if they would have signed Pony, I'm with you. If they would have signed 1 or 2 guys, I think this whole town would have been excited.
Right, because the whole thing is built around Paul Skeens and the rest of that starting rotation, okay? Paul Skeens is one of the big box office draws in all of sports. He's quickly becoming one of the biggest names and faces of baseball. And because of that, the Pirates are not going to trade him until he gets closer to his free agency date, at which point the Pirates know for sure they won't be able to ink him to an extension or a new deal. So that day will come. That day is not now. And maybe to the caller's point, his value will never be higher. because of all the years of control and just what an amazing player he has already become after just 2/3 of a big league season under his belt. But no, I mean, that's not happening. It's completely off the table. There's probably as good of a chance the Steelers trade Mike Tomlin as there is the Pirates trade Paul Skeens in the next few months.
You know, I know this is looking 5 years down the road, but say the Pirates were a World Series contender. Do you hold on to him and not trade him and just lose him? Kind of like Ohtani?
I mean, if you were on the cusp of winning a World Series, then yeah, you keep them for that run. I mean, they've had great players from those 2013, 14, and 15 teams that were guys in the final years of their contract. Russell Martin, A.J. Burnett, they didn't trade them. They tried to win with those guys. Now they were players from the outside and not a young player like Skeens. But if you're that close, you can't do it. They traded Garrett Cole. They traded Andrew McCutchen. They got Brian Reynolds for Andrew McCutchen. That was a really good trade.
But he wasn't even
no,
the best part of that deal. Wasn't Kyle Crick the main return?
Originally, that's what people thought at the time, absolutely. So it's hard for me to even wrap my head around your hypothetical when the Pirates are World Series contenders.
Yeah, first of all, that's
baby steps
start.
first. Let's get to a winning record after back-to-back 76-win seasons.
I think there's just still too many question marks. What do you do at first base? I mean, Spencer Horwitz, it's a gamble on him. What does he have, 400 at-bats, Major League at-bats? You don't even know if he's going to be your guy at first base. Then you have Jared Triola there. Okay, the middle infield is okay. Third base is a question mark with Brian Hayes. You have no corner outfielder in left field now. That's going to be a rotation of Palacios, Pham, Sawinski maybe, where Adam Frazier. We don't even know if O'Neal Cruz can play center field. He played it for about a month. Catcher, big question mark. I like Joey Bart, but what are you going to do with Henry Davis and Endy Rodriguez? I think you need to find a place for Endy Rodriguez.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, these guys, Endy Rodriguez and Henry Davis, Rodriguez thought of as a big prospect before his elbow injury, and Henry Davis was a #1 pick. All right, so one of those guys has to pan out. And Joey Bart has to do his best replication, or he's got to duplicate what he did last year. And I don't even think this is their plan. It doesn't seem like it is. But if Endy Rodriguez was your catcher and Joey Bart was your first baseman for the first month of the season, I would be fine with that. I'd actually really like that. Rodriguez is known for being a better defensive catcher, and Bart hits for power. And so find a way, and Rodriguez can play some first base too. Find a way to have those guys basically share those two positions. I'd rather those guys play than journeyman players or guys that I know have very little upside like Jared Triolo occupying first base. Jared Triolo is a very good defensive player, and that's about it. And first base is not a defensive position. It's an offensive position where you expect run production and power.
You know, and they didn't even really address the bullpen, and I thought that was a big concern in the offseason, especially with David Bednar. I mean, Tim Mazza, right? Is that your big bullpen arm that you got this offseason?
Caleb Ferguson. I mean, both of those guys are lefties, and both of those guys had bad numbers last year, but did pitch in the playoffs. So they did right the ship somewhat. I don't actually have an issue with either one of those moves. I'm fine with buying low on bullpen arms because you never know with guys having a good season, then terrible the next. I mean, look at David Bednar. Look at Holderman, how great they were in 2023 and how pathetic they were last year. So I think there's an opportunity there for the bullpen to bounce back this season. It really is about where the offense comes from, Richie. I thought last year at this time that a lot of these young players were going to be building block players, but too many of them either got injured or just didn't get better. I mean, look at the way Jack Sawinski just completely fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
So that's really the key to the season. They've got to score more runs. And it just doesn't seem like a lineup where you've got a lot of power in it, where guys can give you easy offensive production.
Plus, you traded away Luis Ortiz in that bullpen. Let's go out to Billy in Neville Island, our call of the night.
Hey, Richie. Hey, Richie Pony. Great show as always.
Thanks.
This question, why is it every year the Pirates do their annual dumpster diving around this time of year? The one-year contracts, the one-year deals, and
they're a small market team. You have an owner that's frugal, and you know the Pirates hope every year is like everything has to click for them to be good, and that's obviously not a good model.
No, and the sad thing is that 10 years ago they had a $100 million payroll.
Yeah.
So why can't they get back to that now? They did after all their moves in 2015. It got up to around 100 million. So why is it at 84 million right now?
Yeah, a million. What is it? $1 million or $2 less than it was last year. That doesn't give me high hopes. All right, we're going to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Now it's time to turn things over to Ken Rice to find out what's coming up on KDKA News at 11. Ken?
Hey, Rich. Tonight, neighbors in Verona expressed concerns about dangerous driving, plus a federal worker from Pittsburgh on efforts to slash the federal workforce, and Kristen Emery tracking another bitter blast, all coming up at 11, Rich.
All right, thanks a lot, Ken. We only have about a minute left. You know, things start to leak out about the NFL right now. We'll find out more at the Combine and maybe after, closer to free agency. But you heard Jeremy Fowler come out and say that potentially Russell Wilson in the New York to the Giants, Justin Fields potentially to the Jets, both sleeper team. What do you think?
Well, I understand the Jets' interest in Fields because he can be a guy that maybe they can use as a bridge to another younger quarterback. Russell Wilson, why? If you're the Giants, that I don't get.
Yeah,
for a coaching staff that might get fired with a bad season.
A bridge quarterback. I don't know why Russell Wilson would want to go there other than no other options. But we'll see. I hope the Steelers try to sign Fields back. All right, there's our final results. 91% say no, they would not pay over $1,000. I think the lowest ticket right now is $1,200. Thanks a lot, Pony. See you tomorrow. Hopefully we see you guys on KDKA News right now.